The Cantabrian Wars, sometimes also referred to as the Cantabrian and Asturian Wars, were the final stage of the 2-century-long Roman conquest of Hispania in what today are the provinces of Cantabria, Asturias and León, in northwestern Spain. Under the reign of Augustus, Rome waged a bloody conflict against the last independent nations of Hispania, the Cantabri, the Astures, and the Gallaeci. These warlike peoples presented fierce resistance to Roman domination. 10 years of war and 8 legions with their auxiliary troops, more than 50,000 soldiers in total, were needed to subdue the region. The emperor himself moved to Segisama to supervise the campaign personally. The major fighting was completed in 19 BC, although there were minor rebellions until 16 BC and the Romans had to station 2 legions there for 70 more years. Antecedents. Subicaste paceta erat fear omnes Hispania, nisiquam Pyrenea descentis scopolis inherentum citeria adluebit Oceanus, hic dui validissimi gens, Cantabri Astures, in munes imperia agitaban. The Cantabri first appear in history in earlier wars in Iberia, where they served as mercenaries on various sides. In this way, in the years preceding the wars in Cantabria and Asturias, the Roman military became familiar with the warlike characteristics of the peoples of northern Hispania. There are accounts, for instance, of Cantabrians in the army of Hannibal during the Second Punic War. Additionally, there is evidence that they fought alongside the Vacae in 151 BC and helped break the Roman siege of Numantia. It is also believed that there were Cantabrian troops present in the Asturian Wars. According to Julius Caesar's own testimony, there were Cantabrians at the Battle of Ilerda in 49 BC. With all these antecedents, the Cantabrians began to be known throughout the Roman Empire. Roman troops even lost one of the standards to them, something inexplicable and humiliating in those days. Such were the disasters and the embarrassments that, although the Roman historians justified the campaigns as retribution for Cantabrian incursions in the Roman-controlled Meseta Central, there must have been a certain lust after Asturian gold and Cantabrian iron as well. Finally, in 26 BC, the emperor himself, Caesar Augustus, went to Hispania, establishing his base in Segisama. The Astures entered the historical record in the late 3rd century BC, being listed among the Spanish mercenaries of Hasdrubal Barca's army at the Battle of Metaurus River in 207 BC. After the Second Punic War, the history is less clear, rarely mentioned in the sources regarding the Lusitanian, Celtiberian or Roman civil wars of the 2nd and 1st centuries BC. They re-emerged from a relative obscurity just prior to the outbreak of the First Asturo-Cantabrian War in the late 1st century BC. Armies and strategies. According to the Roman historian Dio Cassius, the tactics of the Cantabri were of guerrilla warfare, avoiding direct attacks on the Roman forces because of their inferior numbers. The better knowledge of the difficult and mountainous terrain allowed them to conduct quick surprise strikes with ranged weapons, with ambushes followed by quick retreats, causing great damage to the Roman columns and supply lines. According to what remains from representations on coins and Cantabrian stelae, the Cantabri were skilled in light arms. Lucan referred to this when he wrote, Cantaber exeguisce longistudonis armus. They went equipped with small swords, daggers, small spears or javelins, lances, round or oval shields of wood, and leather chest protection. They also used a weapon like the Iberian falcata, and a bipennis, a type of double-headed axe peculiar to the peoples of northern Hispania. There is no proof of the use of archery as slings, although it is quite probable that they knew and used them. The Cantabrian were able at the time to ride horses, as reflected in the fact that some of the cavalry tactics would be adopted by the Roman army. Examples include the Circulus Cantabricus, a semicircular formation, and the Cantabricus impetusa, a massive frontal attack against enemy lines with the goal of breaching them, as described by Flavius Aurelianus. The quality of the Cantabrian enemy was such that Augustus was obliged to deploy 8 legions in the conflict: Legio I Augusta, 2 Augusta, 4 Macedonica, Via Lordi, Vi Victrix, Ix Hispana, X Gemina, XX Valeria Victrix, to which he added various auxiliary troops: Aela II Gallorum, Cohors II Gallorum, Aela II Thracum Victrix Civium Romanorum, Cohors IV Thracum Equitata, Aela Parthorum, Aela Augusta. These legions with their auxiliaries added up to around 50,000 soldiers. The Roman navy was also sent to the Cantabrian coast from Gallia Aquitania. It was an important factor in the conflict's resolution, since it completed the encirclement of the Cantabri begun by the ground forces. It is calculated that, in total, the Roman army deployed 70,000 men, although these calculations vary amongst authors, because they used a 5,000 men per legion base. In reality, the figure should surpass 80,000 men counting auxiliaries, since, through the reforms of Gaius Marius, the legion had about 6,000 soldiers. However, in Augustus' time, although a legion was officially composed of 6,200 men, for various reasons, the number usually oscillated between 5,000 and 8,000. Bellum Asturicum. The Astures joined the Cantabri in a common defense. In the spring of 25 BC, there were 3 Roman legions established near the Astura River, with troops from the Tarraconensis. According to contemporary Roman historian Florus in his Epitome of Roman History, the armies of the Astures Transmontani came down from the snow-covered mountains and settled near the Astura River, getting ready to take the 3 Roman winter camps. However, the Brigasini peoples of the Benevente region informed Augustus on their intentions. Augustus gave Brigantum, the camp of Augustan Asturica, to the Brigasi as a reward for the help. Additionally, he shared out land in the plains to the allies. His general Carisius attacked the Astur armies, forcing them to take refuge in the fortified city of Lancia. The most important Astures Cismontani fort, according to Florus. Once Lancia was besieged, the Astur armies took refuge in the Mons Medallius. The Roman legions besieged the mountain, building a 15-mile-long moat and ditch. According to Orosius, the Cantabri soldiers preferred to commit suicide with their own weapons and tree poison rather than surrender. A year after his arrival, Augustus had to retire to Tarragona, presumably because of sickness. The conflict, however, lasted more than 10 years. It was one of only 2 campaigns directed personally by Augustus against barbarians, the other being the one against the Illyrians from 35 to 33 BC. End of the conflict. In this conflict, unusually, the Romans chose not to take prisoners. Moreover, there was a tradition among the Cantabria of preferring suicide to slavery. They did this by sword, by fire, or primarily by poisoning themselves with potions made for the purpose. According to Silius Italicus, they used a concoction made from the seeds of the yew tree, a plant with mythic significance for the Celts. Strabo said that they belittled death and pain, to the point of singing hymns of victory while being crucified. For them, according to Strabo, to die as soldiers and free men was a victory. The major fighting was completed in 19 BC, although there were minor rebellions until 16 BC. Rome, as was the practice with other territories, began to impose the reforms. Despite the mass deaths, local resistance was such that the Romans had to station 2 legions there for 70 more years. Through the Cantabrian War and the surrender of the Astures to Rome, the Roman legions adopted from them the solar symbol of twin crosses and lunar symbols, such as the Cantabri labro. They would still be carrying this standard 300 years later. The Roman army also copied from the Cantabri the cavalry tactics Circulus Cantabricus and Cantabricus impetus. Bibliography. Los Cantabres Antes de Roma, 2nd edition. Dr. Eduardo Peralta Labrador, Real Academia de la Historia. Las Guerras Cantabres, Angel Josefo Herrero YVV, AA, Estelas Cantabres, Símbolos de un Pueblo, Joan Carlos Cabrera Gutierrez, Editorial Brenes 21, Onomástica de Cantabria, Los Nombres de Persona Cantabres, Jesus J. Morones. Roma y la conquista del norte península, Carmen Fernández Ochoa, Historia de Asturias, la Nueva España, The Conquest of Northwest Spain, Legio 7 Gemina, Ronald Syme, 1970.